Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of The Taj Factor. So I hope that life has been treating you well. I hope that at the very least you have been treating you well and loving on yourself and just enjoying the deliciousness of life, the things that are delicious, the things that are great, and just embracing the things that are not so great because we ride waves here, right? So let's talk about perfectionism today. This is something that I have struggled with throughout my life, something that I find myself still getting remnants of popping out every now and then, especially now with me embarking on this journey of becoming someone who I will call myself a life guide. I really am not one for labels, but if I had to call myself that, I would call myself that before calling myself a healer or a spiritual whatever, because I'm just me and I'm just living life. And as I learn ways to manage my life a little better, my goal is to just guide you and show you how you can do the same thing. So I came up with the term life guide, okay? And so let's talk about the definition of perfectionism. Perfectionism is concerned with striving for flawlessness and perfection, and is accompanied by critical self-evaluations and concerns regarding the evaluations of others. So in short, that's a fancy way of saying you have this image of yourself that is going to be perfect if you achieve X, Y, and Z, right? So that is perfectionism. That is something that a lot of us deal with, whether we like to admit it or not, whether we talk about it or not. It exists and it's not totally our fault, right? But since we do have it and it has been conditioned into us, it is our responsibility to heal that. So let's get into it. Where does it come from? So the root of most things that we deal with in adulthood, really all things, is, besides like trauma we meet along the way, is rooted in our childhood. It comes from parents who may have been a little too hard on you. It comes from teachers who literally labeled you with letters on your assignments telling you that this is not good enough, giving you numbers and percentages telling you that what you did is not good enough, instead of grading us off of our best efforts, right? Which is what I believe should be done, because school is just not everybody's cup of tea. So you have that, and then it's compounded by society telling you that the way that you look is not enough, the way that you speak is not enough, what you have, what you do, who you are is simply not enough. So then you put all of these things into this little human, and it grows up into someone, it evolves into someone who is extremely self-critical. So when we're self-critical, we're never satisfied with who we are, with what we achieve, no matter how good it is. We're often too result-driven. So nothing is wrong with wanting results, right? But when you're result-driven, there's an issue. In the very beginning of you setting out toward your goal, which I think the next video I make is going to be about goal setting and accomplishment, because that is something that has been on my mind lately, and I feel like I have some offerings on that. So look out for that. But when you set out with the goal in mind, just focusing and working toward it with the end result in mind, you completely miss the beauty in the process of evolving and becoming the person who is capable of achieving the goal. So I'm starting to look at myself and my goals from a perspective of not just simply what I want material-wise. Yes, that's the goal in mind. However, my focus is on polishing myself and disciplining myself, molding myself in a gentle way. All those words kind of sound harsh, but it's just not. It's the reality of what it takes to accomplish certain goals or to break certain habits, right? So for me, it's looking at it as enjoying all these experiences that are lined up to help me become the person who can then achieve the goal. But when we're result driven, and we're conditioned to be, because nobody cares about the process. Let's be honest. When you look on Insta, all you see are the fancy cars, the yacht trips, the travel. You see all the material gain, but oftentimes people do not show you the process. They don't show you those countless hours when they were getting it out the mud, partly because they were too busy to do that, but also because it's just not something that is really appreciated and respected and revered enough. We're just so focused on material wealth that we don't focus on the wealth of self-development. So anyway, you are very result driven, and that completely ruins the process for you. You're always striving like tirelessly toward these goals that you have, hoping that once you reach them, there's going to be some out the sky that tells you that you are enough now. And that just is never going to happen. It also makes us disappointed in ourselves. So when you have this image and you don't achieve the goal or you fall short of the mark, you start to be disappointed in yourself. And then from that space, it can be very degrading, very damaging. You get into this cycle of trying to achieving, not feeling like you're enough. And you just go in this constant cycle. Excuse me. So how is it damaging? Clearly, it's damaging to your self-image. It's damaging to your self-worth. It's very degrading. It's self-degrading. You become someone who you don't respect, you don't love, because you keep measuring your self-worth by something outside of you, right? And so whenever we do that, we're always going to come up short. You're always going to come up short by trying to place your worthiness on something that you cannot control. So for my influencers out there, for the people who strive to have millions and millions of followers or subscribers someday, make sure that you're creating content that is based off of your desire to impact somebody and not your desire to feed your ego, right? And for my spiritual people, this is just a quick caveat before I forget it, because I forgot to write it down. If you're in the same category as me, it's like spirituality and improvement and all this good stuff, make sure that you're not trying to portray this image of perfection. Make sure that you are being authentic, that you're being vulnerable and connecting with your audience in a way that is human and not always trying to make them feel like they have to be happy, always trying to make them feel like they shouldn't be concerned with the things that are going on in their lives, right? That's not what it's about. That's not what this journey is about. And I don't want us to hold ourselves to that standard of making ourselves feel like we always should be happy because we're putting on this front to the world that we're this happy-go-lucky person when we still deal with life just like everybody else, but we just have a few different tools that we use to help us bounce back, right? So beyond that, it also makes you want to constantly strive for goals. You are never satisfied, which I believe that we're here to grow, and we grow through the challenges through our goals. So I think that it's important to have goals and it's important to strive. However, make sure that you're just not on a hamster wheel just for more and more and more. Make sure that you're not doing it to try and feed or fill voids or validate you. Make sure that you're not striving toward goals for validation, because you are enough. Okay, you're enough already. Another thing that it does is it makes us unforgiving of ourselves, and it's very exhausting to constantly be this person who you are beating up on because you're like, oh, you didn't do this, or you didn't do that, or you didn't get the spot, or you didn't make the mark, or you didn't get the likes. You are constantly beating up on yourself, and it just feels extremely shitty, but we continue to do it because we don't forgive ourselves. We don't give ourselves grace. So just like everything else, I'm never going to bring y'all a problem, a limitation, without helping y'all understand and helping us understand together how we can work through this and how we can heal these parts of ourselves that make life hurt sometimes, right? So let's get into how we fix this drive for perfectionism. So the first thing we have to do is identify the fact that it has been conditioned and ingrained in us. Identify the fact that we have been these people who have strived after perfection for as long as we can remember, hoping that we would make our parents proud, hoping that we'd be accepted by society or be praised by our friends or achieve whatever, right? Identify that it exists, acknowledge its existence, acknowledge how deep those roots run. And so with that, acknowledging how deep those roots run, understand that it's going to take some time to unravel all of that. Like, it's not going to happen overnight. So it's a constant process. And this is just a process of evolution and self-development, right? And development happens gradually. So give yourself time. Be gentle. Also, mindfulness. So this is the main way to work through any limitation that you have, by not monitoring your thoughts. And I recently listened to the audiobook. It's called The Law of Attraction by Abraham Hicks. If you're into that kind of thing, I read The Secret like over so many years ago now, but I never read this book. This book is way better. It's way deeper. And she explains in it that we are not designed and we're not supposed to monitor our thoughts. Our emotions are what we were brought here with to help us literally feel our way through life and navigate based on good and bad feelings. We put all these labels on our feelings like, yeah, there's guilt, there's shame, there's hate, there's anger. but it's either a good feeling or a bad feeling. And you know that in your gut, you know that in your heart when something feels good to you and when something feels bad. So you can use mindfulness in this way to monitor when you feel your emotions that don't feel so good. And you can point inward and say, okay, what are the thoughts that I'm thinking? So then from the emotion, that evokes you and triggers you to think, okay, what are these thoughts that I'm thinking? Say, for example, I posted my first reel up on Instagram. So if you have not followed me on Instagram, go check out my reel at thetajfactor. Shameless plug. But say I post my second reel and I'm like, ooh, it didn't get as many likes as the other one. Maybe I should delete it or whatever. Like, you basically find yourself thinking these thoughts through like using your emotion to guide you there. And then from there, you can say, okay, what is this thought coming from? Oh, it's coming from my need for perfectionism, my need to be validated by something outside of me. From that space, you can bridge that and work through that thought and say, you know what? That's not why I put it up in the first place. I put the reel up, maybe it's to make somebody laugh, maybe it's to inspire somebody, maybe it's just to give a few helpful tips real quick. That's what I put it up for. I didn't put the video up for the likes, right? I wasn't doing it for the gram. But in the culture of Instagram and of society, it's always your people look at you and your worthiness based off of how many likes you have. That's just facts, and how many followers. Like, there are people that won't follow you back for the simple fact that you don't have like 1,000 followers, right? That's just the reality we live in, and that's how deeply ingrained in us it is, to the point where we make each other feel less than because of these outside factors, right? That have nothing to do with who we are and what we are truly worth and what we're capable of as a person. So be mindful in that way, and mindfulness allows you to recognize the patterns of perfectionism triggering in your life, and eventually you'll be able to identify them quickly and bridge the thoughts even quicker, to the point where it'll become a subconscious process, and eventually, maybe if you work on this hard enough, it won't pop up anymore. It still pops up for me, especially moving into this space, right? I literally just opened up my Instagram early this year. It was private for the longest, and when you are used to looking, scrolling, you see, oh, she got like 100,000 of likes and you got like 30. It's like, okay, so what? Like, did you provide the value that you wanted to provide? Yes. Okay, then let it go. Move on. Be grateful that you impacted at least one person, and know that that was the purpose. Remind yourself of that and move on. Helpful tips. Things that can help you working through getting rid of the perfectionism drive. One is developing positive self-talk practices. This is the number one thing that I say is very unappreciated and undervalued in the world of self-development. And shout out to Coach Stormy. She always talks about how she talks to herself. And even sometimes, like when I'm working out, I'm not gonna lie, I say some vulgar things to myself to push myself mentally, because that's what I require. But I'm doing it with love and to make my body know that my body, I control my body through my mind. It's not the other way around, right? If I'm breathing, I can keep going. And that's just how I go after my workouts. And that's how I get my results that I want. And that may not work for you. But I also do a lot of positive self-talk, where I wake up and I tell myself how beautiful I am. Even when I'm in the middle of an acne flare, or even when my hair is just nappy as ever because I have chosen not to comb it that day. Like, I choose to talk myself through my day, talk nice to myself, and through that I feel love. And you develop self-love, and you develop a relationship with yourself that is so beautiful, because you feel encouraged and you don't have to go to anybody else for it. So talk to yourself the way that you talk to your best friend when they come to you in a crisis. When you find yourself in a down moment, remember, Taj said, act like I'm my best friend, right? You don't beat your best friends up when they call you and they're hurting and they're going through something. You say any and everything you can to make them feel better. So do that for you too. So positive self-talk and other self-love practices, the pitter-patter you hear is our dog walking around. Those are things that are going to help you work through this process, because it's hard enough already. Don't make it harder for yourself. And the last thing is to do your best in everything that you do. Do your best, because when you do your best, you can make peace with whatever the end result is, right? If you do your best to edit a video and it ends up crappy, or if you do your best to try and achieve a goal or make a certain grade and you really did all that you can do, excuse all the noise, y'all, it just becomes something you can make peace with. You can say, okay, I gave it all that I have and that's all I can do, right? I literally gave it all that I have. And from that space, you can accept whatever the outcome was and you can say, okay, this is that. So that's basically my 2 cents on perfectionism. So y'all, be gentle with yourself, as I always say. I hope that you continue to love yourself through all of your imperfections and all of your limitations as we continue to work through them and continue to make peace a daily practice by cultivating love within ourselves, right? By looking at the hard things and moving on from that space. One day, one step, one practice, one journal entry at a time. And the next thing I want to say is, if you have enjoyed my videos, please leave a thumbs up. This helps reach other people who may need the message. And it also subscribe if you have not subscribed and you have watched my videos recurrently, because it also helps grow the channel and reach people who may need to see what you've seen. All in all, I hope that y'all are gaining value from it. It helps me to make these videos. I'm gonna be honest, I watch my videos a lot because these are things that I am currently working through. Just because I make a video on it doesn't mean that I've mastered it. It just means that I've come up with some ways that are helping me manage it pretty well. And I feel like they should be shared. So until next time, I love y'all so very much, and keep coming back for more, but keep doing the work in between. Don't just come watch the videos, y'all, and not apply anything, because that's not why I do it. I do it hoping that it just helps you, points you towards some things that can help you manage your life a little bit better. So until next time, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. Thank you so much. And peace.